In a world screaming at you to be everything but yourself, what if the secret to unbreakable strength is rebuilding you every damn day? Forget the noise. Invest your focus like it's gold. Small wins compound into empires. Ready to architect your life? Let's dive in. 214 chars. You know, the world is very busy telling you what you should be. Your family tells you one thing, your friends say another, social media says 100 more. And somewhere in that noise, you forget you. I've learned something the hard way. When life breaks you down, and it will, the only person who can truly put you back together is you. Not your boss, not your friends, not luck. You. Today I want to talk about how to rebuild yourself. Not once a year as a New Year's resolution. Not when everything falls apart. But every single day. Because every day the world is either shaping you or you are shaping yourself. And I'd rather be the architect than the victim. People often think investment is only about money, stocks, properties, businesses. But the most valuable investment you can ever make is your focus. Your focus is your time, your energy, and your attention, all combined into one currency. Once it's spent, you can never get it back. The problem is most people spend this currency carelessly, scattering it everywhere without thinking about the return they'll get. When you focus on yourself, on your skills, your health, your mindset, you're putting your resources into something that grows in value every single day. The world changes fast, technology changes fast, people change fast. If you are not developing yourself, you are falling behind, even if you don't see it yet. That's why your focus should be like a laser, not a flashlight. A flashlight up everything, but nothing deeply. A laser can cut through steel. Every day, distractions are chasing you. Your phone pings, social media scrolls, people's opinions fly into your mind like arrows. If you don't guard your focus, it will be stolen. And when your focus is stolen, your growth stops. You can't rebuild yourself if half your attention is on what other people are doing and the other half is on what they think of you. Rebuilding requires depth. And depth comes only when you give your full attention to the work in front of you. Think about it. A farmer who spends all day walking around the field looking at other farmers' crops will never plant his own seeds. The same is true for you. If your eyes are always on what others have achieved, you'll never have the energy to build something for yourself. Focus means saying no more than saying yes. It means protecting your time like it's the most expensive asset you own, because it is. When you choose to invest your focus, you begin to see small returns first. Maybe you wake up earlier. Maybe you learn a new skill. Maybe you start reading more instead of scrolling. At first, these returns feel small and slow. But investment works with compound interest. The more you put in, the faster it grows, and the growth becomes exponential over time. A person who spends one focused hour every day learning something new will be unrecognizable in 3 years, and people will call it luck, not realizing it was focus that did the work. Here's the truth. Focus is uncomfortable. When you decide to work on yourself, you will feel lonely. The world around you will keep moving, and you might feel like you're missing out. Your friends will invite you to do things that don't match your goals. Social media will tempt you to jump from one idea to another. But every time you give in, you're withdrawing from your investment. And just like a financial investment, the more you pull out, the less you gain. Focus also requires clarity. You can't invest in something if you don't know what it is. This is why self-awareness is so important. If you don't know what skills you want to develop, what habits you need to build, or what kind of person you want to become, your focus will be scattered. Imagine trying to water every plant in the city with one small bottle. Nothing grows. But if you pour all that water into one seed every day, that seed becomes a tree. Another thing about focus, it magnifies whatever it touches. If you put your focus on problems, the problems look bigger. If you put your focus on opportunities, they multiply. Your mind is like fertile soil, and focus is the sunlight. Whatever you point it at will grow, whether good or bad. This is why careless focus can be dangerous. Spending hours on gossip, arguments, and negativity is the same as feeding poison to your own future. And focus is not just about doing more, it's about doing less, but doing it with full intention. It's not about working 16 hours a day without direction. It's about working the right hours on the right things. People burn out not because they work too much, but because they work too much on things that don't matter. That's why investing focus into yourself is different. It's not an expense. It's the seed of everything else you will ever create. You can't rebuild a house on top of the old ruins without clearing the broken pieces first. If the foundation is full of cracks, no matter how beautiful the new walls are, they will collapse. The same is true for your life. Rebuilding starts with removing what's broken, not decorating it. Many people try to rebuild themselves while still carrying the weight of their past mistakes, failures, and even old successes. They try to step forward but keep one foot tied to yesterday. That's like running a race while holding a suitcase full of stones. It doesn't matter how fast your legs are, the weight will slow you down. Letting go is not about forgetting. It's about releasing your grip on things that no longer serve you. Some people hold on to past failures so tightly that they start to believe those failures define them. Others hold on to old victories and live in the shadow of what they once were, never daring to create something new. In both cases, the past becomes a prison. Sometimes what you need to let go of is not just events, but people. You can't rebuild yourself if you're surrounded by those who keep reminding you of who you used to be instead of supporting who you are becoming. It's not about blaming them. It's about realizing that your environment shapes your energy and your energy shapes your growth. If the people around you only feed you doubt, fear, or negativity, they are part of the old structure that needs to be cleared. There's also a hidden danger in holding on to comfort. Comfort can be more dangerous than failure because it whispers, "Stay here, you're fine," when in reality, you're stuck. Many talented people never rebuild themselves because they are comfortable enough to stop trying. But rebuilding is an active choice. It requires disrupting what's familiar so you can create what's better. Letting go is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. It's deciding to stop checking someone's social media because it triggers feelings that distract you. It's deleting old projects that no longer align with your vision. It's saying no to commitments that drain your time and attention. It's unsubscribing from voices that pull you away from your focus. One of the hardest things to let go of is the need for approval. You can't rebuild yourself while constantly seeking validation from others. Approval is addictive. The more you seek it, the more it controls you. But when you start building something new, it will look strange to people who are used to the old you. Some will not understand, some will criticize. If you let their opinions dictate your steps, you are building according to their blueprint, not yours. Sometimes letting go means releasing the version of yourself you thought you were supposed to be. Life rarely goes exactly according to plan. Maybe you imagine a certain career, a certain relationship, or a certain lifestyle, and it didn't happen. Holding on to that image can blind you to better opportunities. By letting it go, you open the door to possibilities you never considered before. There is also an emotional cost to holding on. Anger, resentment, guilt. These emotions take up mental space and drain energy that could be used for growth. They cloud your vision and make you reactive instead of proactive. When you let go, you free up that energy to focus on what you can build today. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you choose to care differently. You care more about your future than your past. You care more about your growth than your comfort. You care more about building something strong than clinging to something broken. It's a decision to put your hands to work on the new rather than holding tightly to the old. When people think about transformation, they imagine one big dramatic change, a moment where everything shifts overnight. But real growth rarely happens that way. It happens through small, consistent wins that build on each other until one day you look back and realize you become a completely different person. Think of building muscle. You don't go to the gym once, lift heavy for a day, and suddenly look like an athlete. You go every day or every week, adding a little more weight, doing one more repetition. It's the repetition that creates the change, not the one-time effort. The same is true for rebuilding yourself. It's the small daily wins that quietly reshape you from the inside out. The problem is most people underestimate the power of small wins because they don't see results right away. They give up after a week because the change feels invisible. But small wins work like planting seeds. You don't plant a seed today and expect a tree tomorrow. You water it, protect it, and trust that something is happening underground before it ever shows above the surface. A small daily win could be waking up 30 minutes earlier to read something that sharpens your mind. It could be replacing 10 minutes of scrolling with 10 minutes of writing down your ideas. It could be one phone call to someone who inspires you or one push-up more than yesterday. The win doesn't have to be big, it just has to be repeated. Over time, these small wins compound into massive results. Imagine a jar that you put one coin into every single day. At first, it's almost empty and it feels like nothing's happening. But after a year, that jar is heavy, valuable, and full. That's exactly how small daily wins work. They don't impress anyone at first, not even you, but they build a foundation that nothing can shake. There's also a psychological benefit. Small wins keep your momentum alive. Every time you achieve something, even if it's tiny, your brain releases a little dopamine, a chemical that tells you this feels good, keep going. That's why small wins are so important when you're rebuilding yourself. They create a sense of progress, and progress is what keeps people moving forward when the road feels long. Small wins also teach discipline. Anyone can be motivated for a day, but it takes discipline to keep showing up when the excitement fades. By committing to daily wins, you train yourself to keep promises to yourself. You become someone who follows through. And that identity shift is often more important than the win itself. One thing to understand is that small daily wins are not about perfection. You don't have to do it flawlessly every single day. What matters is the direction, not just the speed. Missing one day doesn't destroy the progress, but giving up entirely does. That's why it's important to see each win as part of a bigger pattern, not just an isolated event. When you focus on small daily wins, you also avoid the trap of overwhelm. Many people fail to rebuild themselves because they set goals so big, they freeze before they start. But when you break it down into small, achievable steps, the mountain doesn't feel so high. You just take the next step and then the next. Before you know it, you're halfway up without even realizing it. Another overlooked part of small wins is how they change your self-picture. Every win reinforces the belief that you are capable, disciplined, and moving forward. Over time, your confidence grows not because someone told you to believe in yourself, but because you have proof, daily proof that you can follow through. Confidence built on proof is unshakable. Small daily wins also protect you from burnout. When you try to do everything at once, you exhaust your energy quickly and lose interest. But when you pace yourself, giving just enough effort each day to keep moving, you build endurance. And endurance is what allows you to keep going when others quit. Now, the fastest ways to kill your motivation is to compare yourself to others every day. It's like running a race while constantly turning your head to see where the other runners are. You slow down, lose focus, and eventually trip over your own feet. One of the fastest ways to kill your motivation is to steal your energy, your confidence, and your joy before you even realize it. In today's world, comparison has become easier than ever. You open your phone, and in seconds, you can see people who look richer, happier, and more successful than you. But what you're really looking at is the highlight reel of their life, not the full movie. You don't see the failures, the sleepless nights, the self-doubt. You see the filtered version, and you start to measure your real life against someone's best moments. That's a losing game from the start. Here's the thing. Everyone's journey has a different starting point, speed, and direction. Some people are born with certain advantages: money, connections, education. Others start with nothing but determination. If you compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, you'll feel like you're failing when you're actually just beginning. Think of it like planting a garden. If you plant an apple tree and your neighbor plants bamboo after 1 year, the bamboo might be tall and green while your apple tree still looks small. But what you don't see is that apple trees take time to build strong roots before they grow tall, while bamboo shoots up quickly but develops differently. Both have their own timelines, and neither is wrong. If you judge your apple tree by bamboo standards, you'll feel like you're behind, when in reality, you're just on your own schedule. When you constantly compare, you start to make decisions based on other people's past instead of your own. You buy things to look successful instead of investing in your actual growth. You change your goals because someone else achieved something faster. You stop listening to your own voice because you're too busy hearing theirs. This is dangerous because it disconnects you from your own identity. And without identity, rebuilding yourself becomes impossible. The worst part is that comparison often turns into quiet resentment. Instead of being inspired by others, you start to envy them. You look at their success and think, why not me? That question, if asked in the wrong spirit, becomes poison. It distracts you from working on yourself and puts you in a cycle of self-pity instead of self-improvement. But there's a powerful shift that happens when you stop comparing yourself to others and start comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. Now, the competition is fair. You know your starting point, you know your struggles, and you can measure your real progress. Did you read more today than last week? Did you save more money? Did you speak more confidently than before? Those are the comparisons that matter because they keep you moving forward without stealing your joy. Another truth about comparison is that it's never accurate. You might think someone has everything together, but behind closed doors, they may be fighting battles you can't see. The person with the perfect body might be insecure. The person with the big house might be drowning in debt. The person with the perfect career might be unhappy. You can't compare your inside to someone else's outside. It's also important to remember that success is not a limited resource. Just because someone else wins doesn't mean you lose. Life is not a single podium with only 3 spots. There's room for everyone to succeed. But comparison tricks you into believing that someone else's gain is your loss. This scarcity mindset is what keeps people stuck instead of inspired. When you stop comparing, you free your mind from the constant noise of competition that doesn't matter. You give yourself permission to move at your own pace. You allow yourself to enjoy the process without feeling pressure to match anyone else's timeline. And most importantly, you focus on building the version of you that feels right, not the version that looks good next to someone else's. Before you rebuild anything, you have to know exactly what's broken. You can't fix a car if you don't know which part isn't working. You can't improve a business if you don't know where the losses are. And you can't rebuild yourself if you don't know who you are, what you want, and what's holding you back. That's where self-awareness comes in. Most people skip this step because it's uncomfortable. It's easier to keep moving and distract yourself than to stop and really look at yourself. But without self-awareness, you're just throwing random solutions at a problem you haven't clearly defined. It's like trying to build a house without a blueprint. You'll waste time, money, and energy and still end up with something unstable. Self-awareness is about asking the hard questions. What am I really good at? Where do I keep failing and why? What habits are helping me and which ones are hurting me? What do I truly want, not what others expect from me? It's also about being honest with the answers, even if they're not what you hope to hear. Many people live in denial because the truth can be uncomfortable. They say, I'm unlucky. Instead of admitting I'm inconsistent, they say, I just haven't met the right opportunity. Instead of admitting, I'm not prepared to take it when it comes. Self-awareness doesn't let you hide behind excuses. It shines a light on reality so you can actually change it. Think about a doctor diagnosing a patient. If the diagnosis is wrong, the treatment won't work no matter how good the medicine is. Self-awareness is your personal diagnosis. You can read all the motivational books, watch all the inspiring videos, attend all the seminars, but if you're applying them to the wrong problem, nothing changes. The other side of self-awareness is knowing your strengths. Some people only focus on their weaknesses and forget to use what they're naturally good at. If you're rebuilding yourself, it's not just about fixing what's broken, it's also about building on what's already strong. Knowing your strengths helps you choose the right direction and play to your advantages instead of wasting time trying to be someone you're not. Self-awareness also helps you see patterns. Life leaves clues. If you look closely, you'll notice that certain situations keep repeating for you. Maybe you keep ending up in toxic work environments, or your relationships break down for the same reasons. Without awareness, you think this always happens to me. With awareness, you realize this happens because I keep making the same choices. That's when real change becomes possible. One of the most powerful tools for building self-awareness is reflection. Spend time each day, even 10 minutes, looking back at what you did, how you felt, and why. Journaling is one of the simplest ways to do this. Writing down your thoughts forces you to slow down and notice patterns you might miss in the rush of everyday life. Over time, you'll start seeing connections between your actions and your results, and that knowledge becomes your map for rebuilding. Feedback is another essential part of self-awareness. Sometimes we can't see ourselves clearly because we're too close to the situation. The right feedback from people you trust can reveal blind spots you didn't know you had. But you have to be willing to hear it without getting defensive. If someone points out an area you need to improve, see it as a gift, not an attack. Self-awareness is not a one-time thing. You don't figure yourself out once and stay the same forever. You're constantly changing, and so is your environment. That means you have to keep checking in with yourself, asking, is this still working for me? Am I still heading where I want to go? Without those regular check-ins, it's easy to drift off course without even realizing it. And self-awareness is not just about knowing yourself in isolation. It's about understanding how you affect the people and situations around you. Your energy, your words, your habits all have an impact. When you know yourself deeply, you can manage that impact in a way that supports your rebuilding instead of sabotaging it. Motivation is like a spark. It's exciting when it lights up, but it burns out quickly if you don't feed it. Discipline, on the other hand, is like a steady flame that keeps burning even when the wind blows. Too many people rely only on motivation to move forward, and that's why they stop the moment things get hard. Motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you going. Motivation is emotional. It's the rush you feel after watching an inspiring video or hearing a powerful speech. It makes you want to jump out of bed and start doing something big. But what happens the next morning when you're tired, it's raining outside, and no one is cheering for you? That's when discipline decides whether you continue or quit. Discipline is not about feeling ready. It's about doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. It's waking up early because you said you would. It's finishing the task because you promised yourself you'd see it through. It's showing up for your goals on the days when your energy is low, your mood is bad, and your excuses are loud. The problem of relying on motivation is that it's unpredictable. Some days you wake up full of energy, other days you wake up with none. If you wait for motivation to come before taking action, you'll make progress only on the good days. But discipline works even on the bad days. That's why people who are disciplined seem unstoppable. Not because they always feel inspired, but because they've trained themselves to move forward regardless of how they feel. Think of athletes training for the Olympics. They don't wake up every day excited to train for hours. They wake up some days tired, sore, and unmotivated. But they still go to practice because discipline has become part of who they are. They understand that showing up every day, even at 70% effort, is better than showing up only when they feel like giving 100%. Discipline is built through habits. You don't suddenly wake up one morning with perfect self-control. You train it by setting small commitments and keeping them. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen the muscle of discipline. And just like any muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets. One of the secrets to building discipline is removing as many decisions as possible. If you decide every morning whether or not to exercise, you leave room for negotiation. But if you've already decided you exercise at 7 a.m. no matter what, there's no debate. The decision is made. All that's left is to follow through. Discipline also protects you from emotional ups and downs. Motivation depends on how you feel, but discipline runs on commitment, not mood. There will be days when you feel invisible progress, days when you question why you're even trying. Without discipline, those days will stop you. With discipline, those days simply become part of the process. Many people think discipline is about being strict or harsh with yourself, but it's actually a form of self-respect. When you practice discipline, you're saying, I respect myself enough to keep the promises I make to myself. That kind of self-respect builds trust within yourself, and trust is the foundation for any rebuilding process. The interesting thing is that discipline often creates motivation. When you take action, even when you don't feel like it, you build momentum. That momentum gives you results, and those results feed motivation again. But if you wait for motivation first, you never get the momentum you need to see results. Discipline is also the bridge between knowing and doing. Many people know exactly what they need to do. They've read the books, taken the courses, and made the plans, but knowing is useless without consistent action. Discipline is the system that turns knowledge into progress day after day, regardless of circumstances. Most people fear failure as if it's the end of everything, as if once they fall, they can never rise again. But failure is not a grave where dreams are buried. It is a classroom where lessons are taught. Every setback carries information, feedback, and wisdom that no book or lecture can ever give you. The problem is that we've been taught to treat failure as shameful. From childhood, we're rewarded for getting things right and punished for getting things wrong. As a result, we grow up thinking mistakes mean we're not capable, smart, or worthy. But the truth is, the most successful people in history failed more times than most people ever dared to try. The only difference is they understood that failure was a part of growth, not proof of weakness. Think of failure as a mirror. It shows you where you are, what you did, and why the result wasn't what you expected. It reflects your current abilities, your approach, and your level of preparation. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. It simply means there's something you didn't see, understand, or prepare for yet. When you fail, you gain an opportunity to ask the most valuable question. What can I learn from this? If you approach every failure with curiosity instead of shame, you turn every defeat into a stepping stone. That's how people transform setbacks into comebacks. They study what went wrong, adjust their strategy, and try again with new insight. The world celebrates winners, but what we often forget is that behind every victory are countless invisible failures. A successful business owner likely had multiple ideas that collapsed before the winning one. An athlete may have lost hundreds of matches before finally becoming a champion. A best-selling author might have faced dozens of rejections before finding a publisher. The public sees the highlight reel, but the reality is built on trial, error, and persistence. Failure also tests your resilience. When everything is going well, it's easy to feel confident and capable. But when you're knocked down, that's when you see your true character. Do you stay down and let the moment define you? Or do you get back up knowing that the only permanent defeat is the one you accept? Resilience is not built in comfort. It's built in moments when you're forced to rise after falling. Sometimes failure is simply redirection. It may be closing one path so you can discover a better one. You might fail at a business idea only to realize that the skills you developed during that attempt to lead you to a completely different opportunity you wouldn't have seen otherwise. In this way, failure can act like a compass pointing you toward where you are truly meant to go. But for failure to teach you, you have to face it honestly. Many people repeat the same mistakes because they refuse to admit what went wrong. They blame the market, the weather, other people, anything except taking responsibility for their own part. Growth only happens when you're willing to analyze your actions without ego. Owning your mistakes gives you the power to change them. The most dangerous way to view failure is as a final judgment. That mindset makes people quit before they even reach their potential. They treat one setback as proof they can't succeed, when in reality it's often proof that they're on the right track, but need more time, more skill, or a different approach. Failure doesn't say, stop forever. It says, not yet. In truth, failure is one of the most honest teachers you'll ever have. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't lie to protect your feelings. And it doesn't reward half effort. It gives you raw, unfiltered feedback about what works and what doesn't. And if you're willing to listen, it will prepare you for successes far greater than you imagined. The people you spend the most time with are not just a part of your life, they are architects of your mindset, your habits, and ultimately your future. Your circle shapes your structure. It determines how you think, what you believe is possible, and the standards you hold yourself to. The environment you are in will either reinforce your growth or slowly erode it. And your inner circle is the most powerful part of that environment. The human beings are naturally influenced by the people around them. We mirror behaviors, adopt language patterns, and absorb the emotional tone of the group. If you're surrounded by people who are ambitious, disciplined, and solution-oriented, you are far more likely to develop those same qualities. On the other hand, if your circle is filled with negativity, excuses, and mediocrity, those traits will seep into your own mindset. No matter how strong you think you are, your circle sets your baseline. If your friends think average effort is enough, you'll eventually believe that too. If they normalize unhealthy habits, you'll find yourself slipping into them without realizing it. But if your circle challenges you to level up, supports your growth, and holds you accountable, your personal normal will rise to match that higher standard. This is why so many successful people talk about proximity power. The idea that being close to the right people accelerates your progress. You don't just get advice from them, you absorb their discipline, their problem-solving skills, and their perspective on life. You see their work ethic, their resilience in tough times, and their refusal to settle. Being in that environment shifts your own identity. You start to think, if they can do it, so can I. And more importantly, if I want to stay in this circle, I have to grow too. Choosing the right circle doesn't mean surrounding yourself with people who always agree with you. In fact, the best circles challenge you, question you, and push you to think deeper. They're the ones who call you out when you're not giving your best, who remind you of your goals when you start to drift, and who refuse to let you play small when they know you're capable of more. It's also not about finding people who are better than you in every way. It's about creating a mix. Some who inspire you to stretch beyond your limits, some who walk alongside you in the same journey, and some who you mentor and guide yourself. Teaching others reinforces your own growth, while learning from those ahead of you expands your vision. Sometimes shaping your circle means making hard decisions. You may need to distance yourself from relationships that constantly pull you backward, even if they've been in your life for years. This isn't about arrogance or thinking you're superior. It's about protecting your energy and your focus. You can care about someone and still recognize that their influence is not healthy for your path. Energy is contagious. Spend enough time around complainers and you'll find yourself complaining more. Spend enough time around innovators and you'll start looking for solutions instead of problems. Whether you notice it or not, your circle is always teaching you something. The question is, are they teaching you habits and beliefs that will build you or break you? In the long run, your circle becomes your standard and your standard becomes your structure. If your structure is built on weak foundations, it will collapse under pressure. If it's built on strong values, discipline, and growth, it will withstand storms. That's why being intentional about who you allow into your inner circle is not just a social choice, it's a structural decision for your life. In the pursuit of success, many people focus on managing time, but few understand that managing energy is even more important. Time is fixed. Everyone has 24 hours in a day. But energy is a renewable resource that can either be depleted quickly or maintained for sustained high performance. The way you manage your physical, mental, and emotional energy directly determines how effectively you use your time and how consistently you can perform at your best. Energy management starts with self-awareness. You need to know when you operate at your peak and when your energy naturally dips. Some people are most productive in the early morning, others in the late evening. By aligning your most important and mentally demanding tasks with your peak energy periods, you maximize output without overexertion. Trying to push through high-priority work during low-energy times leads to slower results, more mistakes, and unnecessary stress. Your physical energy is the foundation. If you neglect your body, your mind will suffer as well. Nutrition, hydration, sleep, and movement are non-negotiables for maintaining high energy levels. The foods you eat either fuel you or drain you. Heavy processed and sugary meals may give a temporary burst, but lead to sluggishness and brain fog shortly after. On the other hand, whole nutrient-rich foods provide steady energy throughout the day. Sleep is equally critical. No amount of caffeine can replace the cognitive clarity and emotional stability that comes from quality rest. Beyond physical health, mental energy is just as important. Every decision you make and every problem you solve consumes mental bandwidth. This is why many high achievers simplify their daily routines and reduce unnecessary choices. It frees up mental energy for more meaningful decisions. Constant multitasking and switching between tasks deplete focus and leave you feeling drained, even if you haven't physically exerted yourself. Protecting your mental energy means eliminating distractions, batting similar tasks together, and setting boundaries on how you respond to interruptions. Emotional energy is another layer that is often overlooked. Your emotional state impacts how you perceive challenges, how you interact with others, and how resilient you are in stressful situations. Negative emotions like anger, frustration, and resentment are powerful energy drains, often more exhausting than physical work. Positive emotions like gratitude, excitement, and curiosity act as fuel, giving you the motivation to push forward even when things get difficult. Cultivating emotional balance through mindfulness, journaling, or simply surrounding yourself with uplifting influences can dramatically improve energy levels. Managing energy also means knowing when to recharge. Many people wait until they are completely burnt out before they take a break, but high performers understand the value of proactive rest. Short breaks throughout the day, deep breathing exercises, and even quick walks outside can restore mental clarity and reduce fatigue. Longer periods of rest, such as weekends off or vacations, help reset the mind and body for sustained performance over the long term. Well, the biggest mistake is assuming that pushing harder always equals better results. In reality, working in intense, focused bursts, followed by deliberate rest, often produces higher quality work than grinding endlessly. Energy is not about constant output, it's about strategic use and recovery. This is why athletes train in cycles. They understand that performance comes from the balance between effort and renewal. The people and environments you interact with also play a massive role in your energy levels. Some conversations leave you feeling inspired and motivated, while others leave you drained. Physical spaces can either stimulate creativity or kill focus. Being intentional about your environment, from the workspace you create to the social interactions you allow, can either conserve or deplete the energy you need to operate at your best. One of the greatest traps in personal growth and achievement is the obsession with outcomes. Society glorifies the final product, the trophy, the promotion, the big win, while often overlooking the long journey that made it possible. This focus on results can make you impatient, anxious, and even disheartened when progress feels slow. But those who achieve lasting success understand a powerful truth. Fulfillment and resilience come from valuing the process just as much, if not more, than the destination. When you shift your mindset to celebrate the process, you start appreciating every step along the way. Every small improvement, every skill learned, and every challenge overcome becomes a victory in itself. Instead of waiting months or years to feel good about your work, you find daily satisfaction in simply showing up, giving your best, and moving forward. This not only keeps motivation high, but also builds consistency, the very thing that compounds into extraordinary results over time. The process is where growth actually happens. The result is simply the evidence of that growth. A runner doesn't build endurance on race day, it's built in countless early morning runs when no one is watching. A business doesn't become successful on launch day, it's shaped in months of brainstorming, problem solving, and refining strategies. When you celebrate the small wins embedded in the journey, you fuel yourself with a continuous sense of progress instead of placing all your happiness on a single future event. Focusing on the process also protects you from burnout. When your only metric of success is the final outcome, you set yourself up for constant pressure and dissatisfaction. If you fail to hit the target on time, the entire effort can feel like a waste, even if you've made significant progress. But when you learn to value the effort itself, the discipline, the learning, the perseverance, you realize that every day of hard work is already moving you closer to your best self, regardless of how long it takes to reach the finish line. This mindset shift also improves resilience. The journey is never a straight line. Setbacks, delays, and failures are inevitable. If your happiness depends solely on hitting the end goal, every obstacle feels like a devastating blow. But if you've trained yourself to find meaning and pride in the process, these obstacles become part of the story rather than a reason to quit. You start seeing challenges not as proof of failure, but as training grounds for strength, patience, and problem solving. Celebrating the process also keeps you present. Too often, we live in the future, always thinking about where we want to be rather than where we are. This constant forward focus robs you of the joy of experiencing the journey in real time. By paying attention to the small details, like how you've improved since last week or how much more confident you feel in a certain skill, you cultivate gratitude for the here and now. Gratitude in turn fuels positivity, making the process enjoyable rather than burdensome. There's also a psychological advantage to this approach. Rewarding yourself for small milestones creates a cycle of positive reinforcement. The human brain is wired to seek rewards. So celebrating progress, whether it's completing a tough workout, mastering a new concept, or finishing a difficult task, keeps you engaged and eager to continue. It's the same principle that makes video games addictive. Each level completed motivates you to tackle the next one. Applying that to real life transforms the grind into an adventure. When you adopt the belief that the process is the real prize, you stop rushing through it just to get to the end. You start savoring the learning, the experimentation, the mistakes that become lessons, and the moments of small triumphs that might go unnoticed if you're only looking for the big win. In Coencio life is a constant process of construction, destruction, and reconstruction. To truly rebuild yourself, you must make the conscious choice to place your focus on your own growth every single day. The world will always have noise, distractions, and opinions trying to pull you in different directions, but your most important project is you. When you invest in your mindset, your skills, your health, and your discipline, you lay the foundation for a life that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks or the judgments of others. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. It allows you to heal from the past, improve in the present, and prepare for the future. Every day is an opportunity to learn something new, to take one more step toward your goals, and to replace old habits with better ones. Even small, consistent actions compound into powerful transformations. Remember, the strongest buildings are not built overnight. They are constructed brick by brick with patience and persistence. In the same way, rebuilding yourself is a journey, one that demands focus, courage, and daily commitment. And your future depends on the work you put into yourself. Rebuilding yourself is not a one-time event, but a daily commitment to becoming the architect of your own life. By investing your focus, embracing discipline, and celebrating the process, you lay a foundation strong enough to withstand any storm. Let go of what holds you back, surround yourself with those who lift you up, and trust that every small step forward compounds into extraordinary transformation. The world will always try to shape you, but you have the power to shape yourself. Choose to build, brick by brick, with courage and persistence. Your future is waiting, and it starts with the work you do today.